So my kids have finally stepped away from Final Fantasy XIV. Now that's not a big deal overall, it's just something that seems to happen with kids. They lose interest and they get on to something else. What's interesting is that this seems to be a trend happening just with the game in general, which usually happens, as I've seen and read and noticed myself with Shadowbringers, that during the expansions, during the patches, 0.1, 0.2, all the way to 0.55, people lose interest. My kids are the same. I myself haven't played since 6.3. Now, I wouldn't see this too much of an issue. Seems like everyone bounces back. But what seems to be interesting is that my kids, I don't even know if they're going to even come back for 7.0. New games are coming out. This is a golden age of video games. And for them, there's just always something else out there. Now, 7.0 does look good, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll come back. And though this may be a sentiment for my kids, I don't think there's too much of a danger for the game. Here's why I think that. There's always new players going to be jumping in. There's always going to be someone else new coming to the franchise. When I first found Shadowbringers, it was the trailer that pulled me in. That trailer was something else. Now, the trailer was the first step into me stepping into the world of Final Fantasy. At that point, I hadn't done any Final Fantasy games at all. What I did enjoy, though, was the crazy story behind what made this game so unique. This wasn't your standard MMO. This wasn't even your standard story. What I loved to hear about it when I first started was how this was a saga that had been going on for over 10 years, and it was coming to completion. And for me, just like other people, there'll be someone new that comes along and says, yeah, I want to give this a try. Final Fantasy VII remakes have been amazing. That's another Final Fantasy I got into. Final Fantasy XVI, though I don't have a PS5, does look good too. Now, that game was polarizing in some ways. I think the game would have done better had it been open to more than just PlayStation, had it gone to PC at the same time as the release of 16, though I know the logistics of that are tricky. I know the game would have done better. I know the game would have done amazing. So for me, knowing that there's other people going to be jumping into Final Fantasy XIV, well, that's exciting. I'm looking forward to new players jumping in, but of course, jumping into Final Fantasy XIV isn't like jumping into Fortnite or Call of Duties or Starfield or any new IP that's out there. You have to start from the beginning. And I think that may be intimidating for a lot of people that like what they see in Dawntrail. I think that's exciting for people to see that Dawntrail is going to be something new, something fresh. But to get up to that point, I think that's going to be a big hurdle for a lot of people. They may start the game in ARR, move quickly through Heavensward, dive into Stormblood, and even make it to Shadowbringers. But at that point, if you're not committed, how are you going to make it through Endwalker, let alone start with Dawntrail? It's a big commitment, and I think that's a big concern for a lot of people, is how much of a commitment am I going to make in this game when there are so many other games out there that you can just jump in right away and have fun. But even in that, there's going to be people that are committed, and let alone all the other people that are going to be coming back. Another reason I'm not too concerned about this is that the fan base in and of itself is the best tool to advertise this game. As much as the commercials are good, as much as the trailers are amazing. And like I said, there was the Shadowbringers trailer that started me down this road. It was the fans, though, that locked me in. It was the people that were ravenous about this game that locked me in. It was my obsession about the game that got my boys involved, thus me paying 4 subscriptions. And that obsession kept me going through all these years. I may only have a couple thousand hours into the game, noob numbers. There are many others that have been faithful all the way since the beginning, 10,000 hours plus. Those are the people that are the greatest advertisers for this game, the people that really love it, the people that will tell others how much they love it. And the final reason I think that this is going to be fine is that there's a real trust with Naoki Yoshida and what he's done. People trust him in making good games. They trust him in the stories that he's brought and finished. They trust him. They realize that, okay, he hasn't let us down yet. He's been going bigger to bigger, bigger expansion to bigger expansion. And I think that's great. I think that's the kind of thing that you want in a director, want in someone in charge, someone who's consistent, someone who holds himself to a higher standard, someone who, when he delivers, he delivers. When he doesn't, he calls it out. So for me, I'm looking forward to Dawntrail. I just hope there's not going to be another game out there at the same time, because I'll tell you, games like Baldur's Gate have got me locked in pretty tight. Starfield, I'm interested. I still have to do my Star Wars. Jedi Survivors.